All right, so we're gonna kick things back off with a panel. So we've got a two-person panel with some very interesting folks. All right, so the first person that we're gonna talk with is James Berry from Valuedynamx. It's a Collinson, one of the many Collinson companies that are often represented at these events. And he's gonna be talking to David Moritz with IAG. And they're going to be talking a little bit about what's the thing that we can do to bring disparate programs together using data, technology, and all sorts of fun stuff. It's a challenge that many of us face. So when you think about the different ways you interact with customers, oftentimes internally we don't communicate well, and we need to make sure that we're doing it strategically from technology and using things like rewards, using things like manufacturers and their offers and all that fun stuff. So we're going to hear from two experts on how to bring all of this stuff together, and we're going to welcome them to the stage now.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, David. It's positioned as a fireside chat. There's no real fireplace, but I think David's done a very good job of warming us up regardless. So thanks for the introduction. I may be a familiar face at these conferences. I don't think I quite made 2005, but have been a regular visitor, either seeing me maybe on stage or perhaps at one of the bars, you never know. Valuedynamx was set up as a Collinson company, very much bringing together our capabilities in the earning and redemption space, but really looking at the everyday lifestyle rewards and enabling our clients and the merchant network that we work with to benefit from the collective value and the dynamic value exchange that sits around that whole ecosystem. We work with a number of clients, but David here is from IAG. Probably needs less introduction, but David, if you can give a quick intro to both yourself and IAG and what your current focus is.
Of course. Thanks, James. Hi, everyone. Great to see so many of you. So yeah, like James said, my name's David Moritz. I've been with IAG Loyalty for almost a year. My background's all product tech and marketing, so I spent some years working in Australia in prop tech, and prior to that, Amazon, Tesco, and some other e-commerce players. But my passion has always been loyalty, and that's what attracted me to this business. I am a self-confessed Avios geek, or really any status or points geek, I think, is to be fair. So it's great to be here. I think specifically about IAG Loyalty, I'm sure most of you know who we are. We established ourselves as IAG Loyalty in 2020. We're previously Avios, but we wanted to identify ourselves as being more than just the currency, hence IAG Loyalty was born. I head up the product side for collection, so essentially any non-airline partner mechanics for collecting Avios, like eStore, our points exchange platform, our relaunched prepaid MasterCard, and the ability to move points between Avios and Nectar, for example, all sit with one of my teams.
Thank you, David. I think it's a really interesting background and really talks to some of the things that hopefully we'll address today and the approach that's being taken, very much a product-led customer experience approach, which
yes.
is a consistent theme, I think, with what we've heard this week, but to draw some of that out would be really useful. Now, when we talk everyday relevance, it's been a theme that we've heard for a number of years. I guess the last 18 months, 2 years, there's probably been even more pressure or focus on that and driving that relevance and the engagement in a program, particularly a travel program where maybe the travel element isn't there at that period of time. Do you want to just headline how that's gone for you in that
Absolutely,
period?
and like you said, we've just hopefully come out of the pandemic. We went through that period where no one was able to travel at all. But using the collection mechanics we have, where our members can earn points without traveling, so examples include the eStore or card-linked offers, which we'll come on to in a second, were ways that we enabled our members to collect points and still engage with the currency. So that was one of the mechanics we used. And I think knowing that travel would come back, so obviously the end goal for collecting Avios here is to be able to redeem them. And whilst our members weren't able to redeem them during the pandemic, I think they were quite confident that travel would come back and were still engaged with the currency.
Okay, I think it's fair to say the strategy of every day and being relevant every day existed well before the pandemic. And
yes.
Therefore it was that alignment and ability to react and pivot and respond to market changes were happening very, very regularly in every market, but in specific markets, some very challenging retail and travel dynamics. So being able to pivot and react quickly. So what were the kind of key trends you saw, perhaps some of the category spend and how that shifted so quickly during that period?
So with a lot of our merchants, electronics being one example, we saw huge spikes in those purchases. I think if I'm an example of one, we're at home all the time. There wasn't really too much to spend our money on. So people were spending online. They were becoming more engaged in earning something, Avios being the example here, whilst they're doing their shops. Obviously, we saw a dip in travel and fashion because people weren't going out. But food delivery partners like Just Eat and Deliveroo, who are on the platform, we saw huge increases there. And particularly from a new member acquisition as well. So we found new ways to engage our members in the currency, and I think doubled down our efforts as well with the work we do with Collinson.
Yep. And obviously that's very focused on the collection side, which is your focus, but you also have a wider view on the other areas of engagement with the program, particularly in redemption. That obviously would have taken a significant change in that period. And has that bounced back, or is it still bouncing?
Yeah, very much so. And we saw not just through shopping, but we saw through our other mechanics that people were sitting on large pots of Avios. They obviously couldn't redeem. And whilst there were still redemption opportunities, either for our hotel partners or with the likes of Iberia or British Airways, the confidence wasn't there for people to redeem. I think what we're definitely seeing in the first half of this year is that confidence being back. People are redeeming their Avios, and they're now, I think, more engaged than ever. And I'll come on to some stats shortly as to wanting to top up those pots so they can continue getting those experiences.
Yep. Yeah, I'm sure you've got lots of stats, so by all means refer to your crib sheet as needed, because there's some good stats in there in terms of the program performance and how that's grown over the years. Now, I think the e-store proposition has been around for a fair while, was perhaps the focus of the shopping experience previously. And we obviously see a huge amount of engagement and collection activity through what's been traditionally e-commerce partners. Do you want to perhaps headline that part of the business first and some of the growth dynamics you've seen in that?
So we launched eStore originally, and I just fact-checked this, in 2005, and we had 35 merchants on the platform now. I think we fast forward to 2022, we've got almost 1,700 merchants on the platform. We started using the Valuedynamx platform initially, powered by Collinson, and then 2 years ago, we made the switch to bring it all in-house, and now we leverage the APIs and the SDKs from Collinson so that we can own that experience ourselves. And that's not to say we weren't getting value from Valuedynamx. What we wanted to do was create our own collection ecosystem with everything not just about shopping, but also how we unify the experiences for our members to buy Avios or to exchange Avios. So that's a journey we've taken.
Yep, very interesting. And we've obviously recently co-developed a refreshed card-linked offer proposition.
Yes.
We can perhaps talk through some of the mechanics of what card-linked offer is and then get into how we've grown that and what the current focus is on that.
Of course. Is anyone here familiar with card-linked offers? Brilliant. Of course you are, Tom. So card-linked offers or card linking really is very simple. You can take pretty much any credit or debit card in the UK and Ireland for this example. You map them through our platform. You just essentially enter the long card number, and then shopping through one of the now 85 partners we've got, you can earn Avios for that in-store spend. It's not a case of having to register or activate an offer like with some of the other programs, but rather register your card once and earn Avios every time you shop at one of those partners. So we've got some big names on there already. Like I said, we're at 85 now. We're at 4 this time last year. We've got the likes of Harvey Nichols, Jojo Mama Babe, Yo Sushi, and we've got some really big, exciting partners coming on before the end of the year as well.
Yes, we've got one very close that we're not
very
talking about yet, which is it'll be at 400 plus stores, so very close. Not yet signed, Tom? Not quite. But watch out for that next week. There'll be a big brand announcement coming through, which will be a really exciting extension of what's there already. Now, again, I've had questions of me this week when we've been talking about card-linked offers. The first question is, is that associated to the co-brand card? And I think the answer to that is, well, it can be any card, as you said, and also any member can register any number of cards, so can register multiple cards. And I think we've seen that's quite a common theme.
Yeah, we have. I think, talking briefly about the stats, we see that the average member who's engaged with card-linked offers has more than 2 cards registered. We're also seeing a 62% month-in-month increase in those people who have registered their cards. So that proposition is really strong. And going back to your point about the co-brand, it's really, I think, encouraging our members to double dip, which is, you use a co-brand card, you use that same card as a registered card for card-linked offers, and then you're not just earning the Avios, say, with Harvey Nichols, which could be 5 Avios per pound, but you're also earning your 2 Avios per pound if you're using the British Airways Premium Plus card. So that's what we're trying to drive from that.
So benefits for all, but additional benefits for those committed customers as well. That's great. You've mentioned a number of retailers that you have and a growing portfolio of merchants and retailers. Obviously, the card-linked focus is today in UK and Ireland.
Yes.
But the programs that you run and manage are multiple market as well. And so we're seeing emerging and engaging number of merchants across each market. And that's obviously a key part of your strategy, is to be consistent but grow it in the context of the market that exists.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, we've got a 35 million engaged base. Largely in the UK, so we focus on British Airways. We also, with the partnership we did with yourselves and Fidel, which facilitate the card-linked offers, meant that tapping into the Irish market and the Aer Lingus program was also a lot easier. In the future, we definitely want to extend this to other programs as well. But our focus for now is the UK
But the online market is multiple markets.
Online is definitely multiple
Europe.
markets,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. And we talk about, there's quite a big merchant base there. And I guess some of the challenges sometimes may be that having too many becomes a bit of a distraction and difficult for customers to necessarily understand where they can be earning. I guess from our perspective, and we see this globally across all the programs that we work with, we still talk about the benefit of having a long tail.
Yes.
So yes, 90% of the spend may come from the top tier merchants, but on any given month, we'd normally see transactions at 80% of the merchant base. So having that broad portfolio does really work.
It does, and I think we're adding around 30 new merchants to our eStore platform every month. I think it's fair to say we've probably got most of the big ones, and the ones that are being added to the program are either those who have just engaged in affiliate programs or cashback, or those, like you say, real longer tail merchants who are new and have just kicked off an affiliate program. But we're still growing. I think if we look at the first half of this year versus last year, we're growing 20%. And if we look at 2019, pre-pandemic, we're actually growing at 30% year on year. So it's still really strong. And it's not just the same revenue or points we're issuing for the same merchants. It's changing.
Yeah. I think the other benefit of having that broad range, as you've explained, during the pandemic period in particular, we were pivoting and changing very quickly.
Yes.
And different merchants became popular for different reasons during different periods. So again, having that flexibility really worked. And I know it's something you want to talk about in a minute, but it's then about taking that entire audience of merchants and offers and making it relevant to people using the data insight and personalization capabilities that you have.
Absolutely, and that's what we're doubling down on, certainly for the next few years, trying to get to a degree of personalization, which is, for example, if we know you shop at John Lewis and we know that you're shopping apparel or baby clothes, what else can we recommend as an alternative where you could earn more Avios, and how can we promote that through our channels, and then how can we link card-linked offers with the eStore so it becomes one unified or cohesive shopping experience. And I think that's really where we'll see change in the next few years, where it doesn't become necessarily 2 distinct channels, but rather one joined up shopping experience.
Yeah. I've mentioned a couple of times the retailers and obviously the airlines had some real pain points during that period. But I think some of the things you're talking through and examples you've given, you perhaps had the opportunity to step back from that, benefit from the short-term tactical changes that could be made, but have a broader vision and a long-term strategy. You're obviously fairly new to loyalty, but does that kind of longer-term view of loyalty afford that reflection and that period to be able to make sure that what's coming next is really relevant?
Yes, it does, and I think now, and you're right, during the pandemic period, we obviously saw a reduction in points being earned through our travel partners. So if we looked at Booking.com or Expedia, for example, people weren't booking hotels. So we saw a dip in that vertical through eStore. But then likewise, we saw spikes in other areas which were more akin to people staying at home. I think now as we come and it's certainly in the UK, to a more challenging time around the cost of living. Again, I think we can play quite nicely into this area, which is, yes, we appreciate that there is a cost of living crisis now and potentially may get worse. How can we reward our members for the essential spend they're making through our platform? I think also categories like luxury fashion as well, we're still seeing huge growth there. So it's obviously not for everyone, but I think doing all we can to support everyday spend is key.
And I think that, again, talks to having the range and the flexibility to then respond and react. Harvey Nichols, we're hoping to have joined us today. Unfortunately, couldn't make it, but we'll certainly be at future events. I think they're a very good example of that luxury brand who's really engaged with this. We work across the mechanics with them, both on the online and the card linking space. I know they've been very pleased with the results. So I think the work that's gone into that is really starting to pay off. We've talked about, and again, this would have been a constant theme over a number of years, data insights and personalization. They're buzzwords and everyone talks about them. You've probably got some good real-world examples and how you're implementing that and how that's changing the customer experience. Do you want to?
We do, and I think it all comes back to looking at the full circle. I think we know that people don't just collect points for the sake of it. There is a given outcome to this. They're collecting points for a rewarding experience at the end of it. So we need to look at the whole ecosystem, and that's what we do religiously. We understand how our members are earning, how they're collecting, and where they're redeeming for those experiences. And things have changed, but I think the beauty of the data we have and the large data team we're still building means that we can identify what our members are doing at every single touch point. So whether it's a flight they've taken, something they bought in store, or a purchase Avios promotion they've engaged in, we can identify all of these touch points and create that joined up experience for them. Which means we can get to that degree of personalization. And not just through the eStore channel. We've also got the Rewards app or BA Executive Club app, which we have for all of the 4 airlines, which is a great way for us to stay really close to our members.
Yeah, and we're obviously managing the retail network on your behalf, and
Yes.
I know that they really value that ability to, A, get access to the right people, the right type of audience. It's a perfect fit for them, but also the distribution of that and being able to get things quickly out there. So I think we're really seeing that broadening the opportunity that we have with the retailers.
Yes.
And we work with a number of programs globally, and there's still a number that in a nice possible way, sometimes used as a bolt-on, an add-on, alongside the program. You at IAG took a very different view on this, and obviously represented by yourself being very much a core part of the product team there. Could you just explain why was this seen as such a strategic pillar? Why was that so important to achieving some of the goals that you wanted to achieve?
So first off, it was about owning that experience end to end. So obviously we've talked a lot about eStore and card-linked offers, but then there's the other products we have as well. So as I've already said, the ability for purchasing, gifting or transfer of points, exchanging through Nectar. We wanted to create that central hub for our members, which we call internally collect.com, which is that single place where our members can come in, they can register for the program if they're not engaged, and they can engage with the non-airline partner side at every single touch point. And this is content that's historically lived with the airlines themselves. We're gradually shifting that into the platform so that we have, I guess, the ability to do more with our member base.
So there's a lot of value added around there about understanding the member experience,
Yes.
touch points, the data that drives that. And I think, again, you've referenced it, by using the headless API approach, you can completely own the customer experience, but also white label it and offer it out as a standalone service.
Yes, we can. And yeah, aside from the 4 airlines we've got at the moment, we're always looking at what could be next and what can we do. And although we don't have any immediate plans to kind of broaden out at the moment, everything we do from a product perspective has to have that lens of how can we scale it. It doesn't make sense to build things just for one partner or one airline. It's having that longer term lens of how do we scale this.
Yep, it's very exciting what we've done, and I know that there's lots more to come. Any sneak peeks of what's coming in future? Or?
Well, subscriptions we launched this week, which I saw was all over the blog. So that's a real success for one of the teams I look after. I think you're going to see, new experiences coming onto collect.com. We're improving the UX and the UI. That's my big focus for all of the teams so that we have that cohesion and we take away as much friction from the journey as possible. Yeah. We're also looking at broadening out the existing propositions. So aside from just adding more merchants and I guess keeping up the momentum with card-linked offers as that becomes more established, it's all about identifying how our members engage with us as a product and as a platform and how we can harness that loyalty.
That's great. I'm sure we all look forward to see what comes next. So thank you for
Thanks,
your
Nathan.
time.